Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 25th RNCI Red Nation International Film Festival. Today, we have you're joining us for our Indigenous Filmmakers Lounge. It's day 23, so I'm a little bit like, this festival so far has been gorgeous, thanks to you. I'm gonna, before I introduce our guest, our filmmaker, I'm gonna give you a couple of notes about what's going on with the film festival. You can visit rednationff.com. There's 105 films, 73 documentaries, 35 directed by women, 12 student films, and 10 experimental. We've had, well, altogether we have 16 events. So we still have a few more events coming up, including the rest of this week of our Indigenous Filmmakers Lounge with our filmmakers. It's been gorgeous. And today, later this afternoon, we roll out with all the PR on our Red Nation Awards ceremony, which is November 29th. And you could get a ticket. And this is what's so much fun about the awards ceremony this year. You could get a ticket for $25 and you get to be inside the Zoom fan room with all the nominees, all the winners, all of our hosts and presenters. So that's something special we're offering with the ticket. And it'll be live on Facebook, as well as on Red Nation Television Network and on our festival site. And we're closing the month off with a concert series fundraiser. Red Nation started off 25 years ago as a concert series in Santa Fe during Indian Market. And we have a whole roster of incredible talent. So visit rednationff.com. We do have a special guest. We have for the concert series, Joe Walsh and Jennifer Warrens, and it's just a whole roster of beautiful people, beautiful music. Music has the power to bring us all together. So join us. And that's a fundraiser, so anyone can attend. Okay, so now we're going to get to it. Our spotlight film today is She Sustains Her. And our guest filmmaker is Candace. Candace, will you say your last name, please? Because the whole joke here is my pronunciation is really bad. So everybody help me welcome Candace.
So my Owehawe name is Jojija Gerlanto. You don't even have to pronounce that one. But my English name is Candace Maracle. And actually my film is called Yakonnhéhkwen in the Mohawk language. But it's actually It Sustains Her.
I was just going to make that correction. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Yes,
okay.
It sustains her. And so this is a very powerful film. And before we get into the film, which you can watch on rednationff.com, I'm going to ask you, where are you coming from now? Where are you live right now?
Actually, right now I'm in Six Nations, Ontario, which is Haudenosaunee territory in Canada.
Fantastic. Well, I'm a relative of the Haudenosaunee. I have a nephew over there. Yeah, blood nephew.
In Six Nations?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, all right. So what inspired you to be a director?
About 10 years ago is when I produced and directed my first film. It was actually my master's, it was my thesis for my master's of journalism.
Oh.
And at the time, a lot has changed, even in terms of how we're covered in mainstream media. But, you know, 10 years ago, things were a little different. And so I was interning at the CBC radio, and there was a pressing issue about Indigenous sovereignty. And it was about the Iroquois Nationals men's lacrosse team. Right. And it was about us representing ourselves on the global stage as people who've never relinquished our Haudenosaunee sovereignty or our identity and our right to mobility to travel on our nation's own issued passports. I was interning at the CBC, and I was very unimpressed with how reductive I found the coverage of Indigenous issues to be, particularly that one. And it was reduced to what I call in Canadian media trigger issues. So taxation, cigarettes, which are often called contraband, you know, when you see that in the media, and casinos. And those are issues that get the rest of Canada, because they are ill-informed about Indigenous issues, grossly ill-informed. And mainstream media wasn't doing anything to advance the discourse. It was, like I said, depicting, I found it quite reductive. So I thought, you know, if I'm unimpressed with that coverage so far, then I ought to tell a better story. And basically all of my films since then have been driven by a passion, by a desire to tell a better story, that is to basically tell our own Indigenous stories through our own Indigenous lens.
Well, that's really exciting. That's it. You know, that's how Red Nation started 25 years ago. I didn't see us represented on any really platforms. And so, so we launched our institute, and it's grown. And even the festival, this is the first Native festival in LA, in the entertainment capital of the universe. I mean, you know, so anyway, I love that our women are leading the way, and that we're, you know, we have 35 films directed by women this year. The last, isn't that amazing? The last two previous years, we had 23 each year, but now this year is 35. So that to me is just, I'm just so excited about that, because that tells me that our women are out there doing it, making their own movies and making it happen, because it's so difficult to get any film made, much less have a platform like a festival and then distribution, right? So hats off to you and congratulations. And I'm excited that you entered into our festival. So Candace, instead, you know your film better, and I don't want to read from a paper, you know, what your film is about. So I'd love to, if you share with the audience how you came about this subject matter and why it's so important to you to tell this story.
So this film, quite aptly titled Yakonnhéhkwen, which means it sustains her, is about a young woman's journey through mental health and thoughts of suicide, which I'm sure throughout North America, unfortunately, is an epidemic in many Indigenous territories. And it's something, you know, that's always kind of in the periphery. There's always a lot of Indigenous issues that we need to grapple with, you know, whether they be land back issues or environmental. And this is a really significant issue for me, because you know, I was personally touched by it. My mother she had suicidal ideations as well. And at the time I was teaching on reserve students and inner city students. I teach them little digital media courses. So, you know, how to make films and things like that. And I was running an after-school program and teaching these students, and I lost a student to suicide, and he was only 15. And that hit me like a ton of bricks. And I was devastated. And in my life, I always think, you know, it's important to feel that emotion, but how can I ameliorate the situation? How can I make it better? And I think the best place is to just start the dialogue, create something, the discourse about it. So it's funny, because I was filming that film for about 4 years. It took me, between funding, filming, and all of the little itty bitty things that come along in production and post-production. And the actual narrative changed when I lost my student to suicide. In that time, I had also been able to build a rapport with Anne and her mother. And so we were almost more like friends. And so me sitting down with her to hear her story it just flowed really naturally. And I thought, there's the story. I wanted it to have all these other things. I wanted it to be, I wanted to use Yakonnhéhkwen so it could be a language resource. I wanted to preserve the traditional black ash basketry through this documentary. But I thought the most important story here is the one she's telling in the interview, and that's about her struggle with mental health and suicide. And she was, it was an honor for her to be able to share that very personal story with me. And she did. And that was the film. And it took me a long time to edit because I would tear up every time. I think I teared up when I was interviewing her and, holding the camera. But when I sat down to edit, I think it turned into something even more beautiful than I originally could have conceived, because that story, although we're dealing with really dense issues like mental health and suicide, necessary, but dense, and that's why a lot of people veer away from them. We embrace this issue head on, and it's got a really positive, empowering message to it. And that's what I love about this film. This is my third film, and I'm very proud of it. And I'm very proud and honored that Anne and her mother, Laura, shared that side with me.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, I have 39 years of sobriety, and in my family, my auntie committed suicide, my grandma. So there's that in our family as well. And I think that there's no shame in this conversation, in these kind of conversations. And the more that we're able to dialogue about it and make films about it and educational films about it and have platforms like the festival and other platforms, right? To have the dialogue, that I feel is key for healing to happen. Because if we keep it a secret, we're only as sick as our secrets.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So if we're able to have a safe place to dialogue, I'm very open about my life. So because I'm not married to the past, right? So I'm able to come forward and share, so that maybe others can share too and heal from it. So I really, really am very honored that you're here, because you took the risk and you had the courage to make such an important conversation happen on film. And so I know from people seeing the film, and you could go to rednationff.com to see the film, it may touch you, you may struggle with mental illness, you may struggle with suicide tendencies, and this may help you. Oh, we lost you. There you are.
There we are. Sorry.
This Zoom experience is just like, it's like, it is what it is. I know you hope for the best, and it is. I've let it go. It's like, okay, because I'm such it's like, okay, I surrender. It's gonna be what it's gonna be. Yeah, it's all good.
Okay.
We're doing it. That's all that matters, right?
Yeah. And I'm lucky that this is the one part on the reserve that actually has decent Wi-Fi. So I'm like staying right here.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so I'd like to also ask you a couple more questions, like who has inspired you in your life to go down this road as a filmmaker?
Okay, that's an easy one.
Oh.
And I don't know if this has been a popular answer at your festival, but I mean, just in terms of filmmaking, one of my idols is Yakonnhéhkwen, and I'm sure she's a very popular name. She's probably an idol to many Indigenous filmmakers.
Yeah.
But her work impacted me at a very young age.
Oh.
Just even the way I remember, what a stark contrast, her documentary 270 years of resistance about the Oka crisis. And I was in Yakonnhéhkwen, and I was really, really young to understand, how important that issue was to Indigenous people. And I remember marching because my dad took my sister and I on this solidarity march in Tyendinaga because Kahnawake or Kahnawake and Kahnawake are sister communities, Mohawk communities. And I remember, you know, really being embarrassed by how our people were depicted on the by mainstream media. And, you know, just, it was so, I don't know, it didn't make me proud, but again, that was mainstream media and that was the way that we were covered. When I watched Elenice Obomsawin's documentary on that same issue, I thought, oh my gosh, we had every right to be there. And we even had Mother Nature and Creator on our side. And
Yeah.
she just conveyed all of that through her film. And you can do a lot with film. You can do a lot on video, and it's an important media to convey a message. And I guess that was probably one of my biggest inspirations.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
And in your film, what was like your aha moment? Like, what was the most challenging, maybe, or most endearing, or you know, funny moment that you had while making your film? Because it's such a heavy topic, right?
It's a heavy topic.
But it's
I
our sense of
always,
humor. It's our sense of humor too that is
it's very
probably
true.
so.
I mean,
Yeah.
I think in all of my films, I broke bread with every character who's in my documentaries. We've laughed, we've shared a lot of experiences. I think that's a really fun part of making my documentaries, is building a relationship with people in these communities. And as an independent filmmaker, I have no choice. I have to make friends, and I'll get invited to Longhouse or the Cookhouse or, you know, what have you, lacrosse games. But I think this, you know, just hanging out with Anne and her mom, we got cornbread and steak one morning, and, you know, in between shooting. And, you know, I think building that relationship and building that trust with people, that's an amazing part of filmmaking. This one, you know, it took me a long time to edit. Like I said, the content was very heavy. But yeah, I think, I don't know. Does that answer your question? I'm sorry, I kind of went off on
Yeah.
a bit. Okay.
No, absolutely. And you know, you bring up editing, and editing is where the magic happens. I mean,
Mhm,
I feel as a filmmaker, right? It's like
mhm.
editing can make or break a film. So has that been your experience with editing? Because some people don't like editing. Some filmmakers don't like it. I love it. Like, I can't wait to get in the editing room.
I do love editing.
Yeah,
That's where you're taking, and you know, that's probably the artist and the filmmaker in me, is as I'm shooting this, all the hours and hours of footage to
right.
create this documentary, um, the pieces and the little puzzles coming together in my mind, and I usually think about the conclusion. So even in this movie, Anne said something in the interview, and I don't know if you've had a chance to watch the film, but she
Yeah.
says, I just knew, I knew I could be something. I knew I could be better. And when she said that, I was like, that's the perfect segue into her showing us how she is in fact, you know, healed, and how she's demonstrating that through her artistry, basically, and through
Mhm.
this basket weaving. Um, I love that. It gets tedious. I had help with this one, fortunately. Wesley Day was my assistant editor on this project, which was just wonderful to have him. Um, I've always enjoyed the editing part. For me, it's been a little, because I didn't get my background in filmmaking. I have my background in journalism, which
Oh,
helps me to tell a story.
right.
But I basically taught myself to edit through each documentary. So I've
Right.
seen it improve, you know, and getting more resources to be able to do that, which is also wonderful.
Yeah.
But I do like that part of putting it together.
Yeah, I do
Mhm.
too. And so moving forward, like, are you working on another project now?
Yeah, I'm working on 2 projects right now.
Oh,
So one is a stop motion
oh,
project.
fantastic.
Yeah, and it's going to be kind of a short. It's a little bit of a departure from the documentaries and the
Yeah.
heavy work that I do. This one's a stop motion. It's going to be Yakonnhéhkwen, so all in the language. It's going to be a resource, but also teaching. And I'm talking about how we got the maple syrup. So the Haudenosaunee legend
Oh,
about how maple syrup came to us. And that's going to be all in the language stop motion. So I'm very excited about that. And then I'm in the research and development phase for another documentary. Um,
we're
oh, you can't
losing
hear me?
you. We're losing
Oh,
you.
everything's the same here with me.
I know. It's, it's just the energy that goes. So we got the stop motion film,
Right.
and now the second one was just
Well,
another.
okay. I actually said that my next one, I don't want to get too far into it because I'm still in the research and
Yeah.
development stage
Yeah. Okay.
for that one.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, I would love to introduce you to a filmmaker that does stop motion. She's brilliant. And she's in New York, and she won last year
Oh,
in the animation category at our festival. So I'd love to, if you don't mind, I'd love to connect you to, because she may have some pointers for you too. Because I know we had done an interview with her, and she was sharing how intense it could be for, and how detailed it is for stop motion, right?
yeah. I would love to meet her and
Yeah.
see if she can give me any pointers. I think that would be fantastic.
Yeah, her name is Elba. She's amazing.
Oh,
She's
okay.
absolutely amazing. Yeah. Okay, so I'll make that happen.
Wonderful.
Yeah, I'll connect you to. And so, and I'd encourage you to enter it into the festival next year. But also, we have all the 35 films directed by women this year all go into our Native Women in Film Festival, which is held in April during the week of the Oscars, during the week of the Academy Award.
Oh, okay.
And we put it there so that we're in the face of the industry, so the industry can see our women, our Indigenous women, telling our stories from our lens, and hopefully recognizing them now and in the future.
Mhm.
Making a challenge here.
Right.
but so yeah, so you can enter at that time as well. I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited for you, because I know from
Thank you.
sharing with Elba, it's intense, the stop motion.
I can imagine. Yeah. I'm not even sure if it'll be ready by next year, but I'll definitely submit it once it is.
Yeah, I know. She's like, her stuff takes years,
Yeah.
each little detail, but it's such a great challenge. I
Yeah.
think that's wonderful.
Thank you.
So we're going to be wrapping this up in a minute. Is there anything that you would like to share with our audience and the film industry about your point of view and your message that you want to deliver in regards to representation matters?
Um, I think I've spoken to it a few times throughout this interview, but I
Yeah,
guess just to kind of reiterate,
yeah,
I think it's very important that you're hearing Indigenous stories as told by the Indigenous people who understand, who can give them that kind of context and background that they deserve. And I think there are so many layers to Indigenous issues that we need to contend with. And I think the most important part for me about this documentary is that I'm hoping, if there's anyone who's ever seen it, who's ever felt, weighed down by depression or mental health, I hope that they watch this film and feel empowered by Anne's story, or that she says something that resonates with them and they're uplifted by it and empowered by it. And that I feel like is really the essence of my work, to uplift our people. We know the tragedies, we know the sad
Yeah.
stories, but there's so much strength. You know, there's, like you said, the laughter. There's so many things that we have done to adapt and to remain strong. And look at this festival. I mean, it's a testament to our strength. And like you said, running the Women in Film Festival in April during Oscar season, to deliberately create a presence. I think that's incredible. And I want us to focus, or at least for my work, I like to focus on the empowerment side of our
Yeah.
stories, because there are so many of them.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Are you still doing journalism, like, as well as filmmaking?
I do from time to time if I'm
Okay.
asked.
Okay.
So for a long time, I was talking about reporting in Indigenous communities. And my alma mater, actually, where I got my master's, with Ryerson University in Toronto, Ontario, um, they began a course called Reporting in Indigenous Communities and asked me to contribute to that. Yeah, I'm not doing too much for. I was with APTN and CBC, but now I mostly work independently.
Okay. Yeah.
Mhm.
Because I'll reach out to you on something that I have in mind that maybe you can help with or lead me in the right direction.
Sure.
Yeah. I'm glad you're in journalism, at least have that background, because that's, extraordinary, right?
Yeah.
It's about who tells the story matters.
Hmm.
And it's all about natives in charge of their narrative.
Yeah.
So if you want to see Candace's films, It Sustains Her, please go to rednationff.com and see her film and see all the 35 films directed by women, and also the 105 films. You have till November 30th. You have a week. So you could binge on films, binge on films,
Yeah.
binge on Indigenous films.
Yeah. Well, nobody's going anywhere, right? So
Yeah, it's the holiday, it's the weekend. All the cities are closing down. I'm in
yeah,
LA, we're shut down, we're on
yeah.
curfew. And so, for all of you out there that want to know um, Indigenous point of view, our stories from our homelands, from our territories, go to rednationff.com and see these films. Support these filmmakers. These filmmakers their stories are all so gorgeous and so relevant. And Candace, speaking on what you shared, we're still here. We're resilient. We are visible. We're very, very visible. And why are we visible? Because we have platforms like this. We have filmmakers like Candace, and we have the next generation coming up that I'm so excited about. I'm going to ask you one last question, Candace.
Sure.
What would you like to tell the youth out there that might want to be a journalist or a filmmaker?
Mm. I think the most important part, and what I would often tell my students, because I've heard it and because it's a very good piece of advice, is always believe in your own story, believe in yourself. And if a story is important to you, then other people are going to want to hear it. Then it deserves to be told.
That is perfect. That is so true. I want to thank you, Candace, for being here today and for making this film and having the courage to make this film on this very important topic. And if you're feeling down and out and suicidal, there's help lines. I wish I had that up here right now, but there are helplines all over that you could reach out to, and reach out to a friend. Just reach out to a friend, even a stranger, and tell them your story. It may help.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it says that in the film, just talk to somebody.
Yeah. Just talk to somebody. Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. So go to rednationff.com and experience Candace film. It sustains her. And please say it in your language again.
Yakonnhéhkwen. Yakonnhéhkwen.
Yakonnhéhkwen.
Yeah. Yakonnhéhkwen.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'll see you at the movies. Thank you, Candace, for joining us. And
Thanks.
until next time, I'll see you at the award ceremony. We're sending
Okay.
the emails out. Okay.
Oh, sounds good.
No. Okay, go to rednationff.com. Bye.
Ona.